Growing up, the only thing that I knew was wrong as a little kid is that I used to get really bad heart pains and that I used to bruise a lot. And went to the doctor for that and had spine taps where they would go to the core of my bones and pull out stuff to see if I had leukemia. That was the big fear. And after I was not diagnosed with leukemia, it was kind of dropped. You know, it was kind of like just thrown away that, okay, so she's going to have a little blood pain, heart pain, and she's going to bruise. And that was it. And I was always a bruiser, and I always knew that. But it really didn't start to flare up until I hit my 40s. I was with a client, and we were doing an interview. He was doing TV interviews throughout Los Angeles. And at that time, I had my period. And it was the period from hell. It wouldn't stop. And you know, it's literally, to be graphic, I was going through like 2 tampons and sanitary napkins within 45 minutes. I called my friend who was older than I am and I said, you know, is this menopause? Am I going through menopause? Is this what's happening? She says, it doesn't sound like menopause to me. You need to, I think you should go to the emergency room. My platelets were at 13, and the average, when I was in the emergency room, the average range, the normal healthy range, is 150 and up. And I was at 13. And I'm a very lucky girl to be sitting here today. And that's, at that very moment, is when I found out that I had a blood disorder. That I had grown up with this blood disorder for an entire lifetime and nobody caught it. And I am grateful to this day for my period, because if not for my period, I would have died. I would have had a stroke. I would have bled out. And you know, you don't hear many women say, oh, I'm thrilled to have my period, but that period literally saved my life. I was diagnosed with idiopathic thrombocytopenia purpura, also known as ITP. It's an immune disorder. And the symptoms that I was having was pain in my heart. I felt like I was having a heart attack. I had scabbing in my nose. I had fatigue. I was having diarrhea, like a lot of intestinal problems going on. I would say that the things that scared me the most was probably the heart pain. I didn't know what that was about. When I first made the appointment to come in with Feline, it was a very thorough interviewing process in terms of the kind of information you had to fill out, which I had never filled out before in my entire life in going to see doctors. It was like questions that I had never heard of. And I had heard through my friend that Feline was very in-depth. So what I found out is after the blood work, I got to find out my food allergies. And I was allergic to everything in the book. I didn't know it, but I was eating it. You name it, I was allergic to it. I think that Feline told me I was probably had the most food allergies she had ever seen. And I also knew that in order to give my body an opportunity to heal, that I had to cleanse out all of the toxins that were in there from a bad diet. And I knew that in order for my body to heal, I had to get the body strong enough to fight, to combat the disease. And the first place it starts is in the food, in my intake. When I would tell people I was seeing a nutritionist to help me deal with this issue, they would look at me like, God, are you kind of crazy about this? But the nutritionist, Feline, was the only person who asked to see what my blood was doing with food, what my stool sample was doing with food. My favorite part is when I would go to the hematologist and they would take my blood, and my platelets were starting to rise. And they say, so how are you doing? I said, I'm doing great, look at the blood. And I would tell them what I was doing. They went, oh yeah, you know, you could tell them they're just kind of blowing it off. And I knew what was working. After seeing Feline, there was a complete lifestyle change, complete. And I made the choice to do that. With my food, there was only maybe 10 things that I could eat. My job and the stress level, I mean, this was all part of the protocol. It's not only food. It's not only supplements. It is how you live your life. And it got me to really shift my professional career. where I had to make a decision: is the stress worth it, or is my life more important? For the first time in my life, I know how to take care of my body. It is no longer a question. I know that how to eat a certain way, how to live a certain way, how to let things affect me. And that is huge, because I can tell you, if I have had a bad week emotionally, boom, my platelets drop. And there's no question. It's there. It's in black and white, and I saw that, and I think that's what really charged me. When I don't eat right, and I would go for blood work, boom, my platelets would drop. So it wasn't like mumbo jumbo, like, you know, voodoo stuff. It was there. It was like validated through blood work, and you can't deny that. Feline saved my life, and I can't say that. I can't say that about anybody else. It's just like there's an instinct in knowing of what's going on with the body, which is, I don't use the word genius too much, but there's just an intuition and a genius that I have never found in the medical community. The biggest thing is that I trust her, and I trust her with my life. And I'm very grateful to her, and I always will be.